Hello, Collective. Wendy Joy, Love and Light. When you think of memories, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you automatically either take on a sensation of low energy or high energy because of a certain memory that may have, entered your immediate mindset, like your vision, your thoughts could have popped it up? Maybe generated by something you saw, you felt, you heard. What do you think about the memory that came up? I know that I was just tested on that, and a memory came my way, completely out of the blue. And I had put it outside of my mind. I thought that I had processed it and, tucked it away as a lived, learned experience, right? Well, it comes out that there was just one more piece of information that I needed to receive by that glimpse of the past, by that memory that came my way. And the universe will set things up like this for you and do it in random ways. And in my case, I guess the universe put it in my daughter's heart that she should post some pictures of an event that happened, she said 7 years ago. And probably she's right. I lost track of time. Time is linear to me, and, it just flows, right? But anywho, this photo was of a freak flash flood because of water cylinders that ran underneath a section of the ground in a place I traveled. And there was obstructions in that structure, and it prevented the water from freely flowing through. And there was a really bad rainstorm, prior. And I guess the water built up and applied pressure to the structure that was in the way of the tunnel, allowing the water to freely flow. So the water did exactly what it always does, and it, found another place to go. And that place was, ironically, a barricaded road, right? There were barricades on the side of the road that I was traveling. And because the rain was still so heavy and coming down in buckets, I tried to pull off the road into a parking lot, but I kept missing the entrances for the parking lot because the water was bouncing so high up off the ground that it was obstructing my view. So I also know that I couldn't just stop dead in my tracks because I was in the road and there were cars behind me who were also running into the same situation as I, except I was getting the brunt of it because I was front of the line. So at a certain point, the road wasn't a road anymore, it was a riverbed. And it happened in a matter of 2 seconds. I didn't even take my eyes off the road. I was driving very carefully, and what the water bouncing with the force of the rain off of the car and off the road, bouncing up, stopped bouncing up, and then all of a sudden I was part of this river, and it wasn't, it was like 4 feet tall, and the water legit was so maybe 2 feet tall, because how high is the door of your car? So the water, I had to push and I rolling down the window thinking I was gonna have to go out through the window because the water just kept pushing the door shut. But I was able to get out of the car, thankfully. And the rush of the water was so strong and rising at such a quick rate that I went right into fight or flight. So I wasn't going to fight the water. I wasn't going to fight the situation. So my idea was get the hell out of there. So I looked around. I saw what was around me. And ahead of me was a raging river. But beyond that was dry land. And behind me was a lake. It was just a lake because the road went down. There was those parking lots and the water was just filling up. It was a lake. So I knew I couldn't go that way. I mean, I could if I wanted, but it would have been so much longer to get out of. And I was, looking at my quickest escape. Even if that meant that I had to go through the worst of the storm in order to get through it. So I gathered up, I had a big bag like Mary Poppins, like that never-ending bag, carpet bag. I had a big bag and my winter jacket because it was cold. It wasn't warm, and not by any means. It wasn't like, maybe it was in between. I don't know. You know what? I don't remember. The weather was cold. I was wet, but I was determined. And I did everything I needed to do. I went to the side. When swimming was getting me nowhere because the force of the water kept pushing me back, it was like I was in an exercise pool. Dragging that big carpet bag because I had my whole life in there. I wasn't leaving it behind. Wasn't leaving it behind. And I had a brand new unopened pack of cigarette, and I knew that I was going to need to smoke. And I just said, keep my cigarettes dry. I'll make it through. I'll find a way. I'll get out of here. And my spirit team did exactly what I asked. They kept my cigarettes dry while I figured out a way out. And I did. I grabbed a hold of the barricade wall, and I hand over hand until I got to the dry spot. And at the end of what seemed like a very long-lasting adventure, there was a police officer who was diverting traffic and said, not that big huge puddle of water, and by now the rain had subsided, and he's standing there and he says to me, "What the hell is your problem?" And I said, "Hello." "How are ya?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And that's exactly what he said. And he's like, "You're a grown lady. What the hell are you doing playing in a rolling, savage river?" And I'm like, or a rapid river, he said. And I'm like, "Listen, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I found myself in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I needed to rectify the situation because it was not a bad place. It was a bad place to be at the time." And he looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, well, what are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Well, now I'm going to trust that my spirit team kept my unopened pack of cigarettes dry so that I could, sit here and, gather my stuff and try to figure out how I'm going to get home." Right? And he was like, "Where's your car?" And I was like, it was floating down the river into the lake. And he was like, "Why'd you get out of it?" And I was like, "Because it was floating away." I'm like, I'm not going to be in a bumper car in a rolling savage lake, right? From, torrid river, right? And he's laughing at me the whole time. And he's like, "Well, I know that my car is uncomfortable, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "But if you want to sit in the back seat," he goes, "you can." I'm like, "Why would I do that?" I'm like, I am 1000% dripping wet. I'm leaving a trail of water. I am engulfed in water. Like it was in my jacket, in my clothes. I was just soaked. And he's like, well, I got plastic seats. And I said, you have plastic seats in your car? And he goes, yeah. He goes, they don't put nice seats in the car. And he's laughing when he says you shouldn't be comfortable when you're being escorted to a police cell. And I was like, oh, okay. So what you're saying is that I won't ruin anything. And he's laughing. He's like, no. And then, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try to walk out of here. And he goes, where are you going? I was like, I don't know. Probably going to take me about until tomorrow. And he just looked at me and said, how far down the road? And I'm like, towns. Towns. So he brought me to the end of his jurisdiction after his shift was over, when his relief came. And the next car that came, because he radioed in for a relay to come pick me up to take me the rest of the way. And he says to me, he goes, have a good day. He goes, don't play in any more rivers today. And I was like, check and check, done and done. And, it was, and I'm telling you this because the piece of knowledge that I left behind, that I didn't know that I was supposed to, keep to reflect upon, was that not only did I not choke, did I not get like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right, anxious, but I knew what to do. I used the tools that I had around me. I relied on my discernment. I spoke my intentions to the universe. I made positive forward movements in what seemed like a very challenging dilemma, and never let any of that stop me or, lead me down a road that would keep me trapped or stuck. I always knew that change happens with me, just like it happens with you. And if you ever find yourself in a position where an outside influence, whether it be Mother Nature, opening up her wrath and spilling heavy downpours, alerting man, right? The benefit, alerting man that there was obstructions within the underground waterways in certain areas where floods happened, how much longer they could have remained and what other things could have gone awry because of, man-made things being placed in positions that, they didn't belong. Like, it wasn't trees or tree trunks that were blocking these tubes. It was literal garbage. Like, people were putting literal things there, thinking that out of sight, out of mind, and that the current of the water would take it some other place and it would be another person's problem. But in reality, we can't do that. And we need to realize that we all need to work together in order to create the world that we want to live in. Sometimes we go through tumultuous events in order to uncover an underlying situation that may be the stem of where the unbalanced or uneven or obstruction may lie that could be preventing maybe not you or I, but maybe others down the road would get held up or, wouldn't be able to slide by because the obstruction at that point would have been able to gather up other elements, making that a tighter, more secure, unpassable tunnel when everybody thought that there would be free flowing water, And this is just an example. But what it made me do was think unitedly, where if we all get together and we all check to make sure that our situation, our environment, the way that we use our intuition, our discernment, and how we choose always will affect, if not us, but something or someone down the line. Whether it's a built up an obstruction over time filled with misillusions or falsities, or if it's a literal 3D thing blocking a way, preventing you access. I don't know, food for thought. But this is like the third time that I've tried to make this message. So, that in itself is another reminder that if we have a memory, that we shouldn't let it carry us one way or the other, but we should ride that memory straight through to the end to see if we gathered up all the value, learned all the lessons, looked outside of the perceived boxes, checked all of our